The cop actually shook last night when that goal went in. You think Moyes, after 22 attempts of winning the game, he changed his tactics slightly.
Again, another little bit of magic from Arnie. When Duncan Ferguson turned round and said straight red, you know it's a red card. It'd be probably the biggest catastrophe the Premier League's ever seen if we weren't to win it now.
How good was it last night when Endo came on? And the whole ground singing his name. And when we went to the pub afterwards, it was like euphoria.
Let's just say, Sam, I've got a good feeling.
Oh, hang on a minute, Peter.
Oh my
hang
God.
on, is this our first Inside Liverpool worldwide exclusive?
We're going to win the league.
And now you're going to believe us. Hello and welcome to Inside Liverpool. We're on TalkSport's YouTube channel and we're also coming to you on your smart TVs. It is the new weekly dedicated Liverpool show on TalkSport where we obviously talk all things Liverpool, joined weekly by ex-players, fans, journalists and so many more. And we're waking up this morning on the back of a Liverpool Merseyside derby victory. First game after the international break, beating Everton 1-0 thanks to a Diogo Jota goal, to move once again 12 clear at the top of the table. So 12 clear of Arsenal and just 8 games to go. Delighted to say, joining me today on the show, the former Liverpool midfielder and, of course, a very familiar voice on TalkSport, Danny Murphy, and singer-songwriter with The Farm, Peter Hooton. Gents, good morning. How are we?
Good morning. All good.
I'm feeling great. Feeling great.
Good stuff. Danny, it must be nice doing a TalkSport show and not having to worry about putting up with Simon Jordan for a couple of hours.
Oh, he's a big softie, really, mate. We all know that. It's all fun. No, it's always nice talking about Liverpool, of course. Sometimes when we do the normal show, we have to cover so many topics. You only get isolated moments to talk about Liverpool, but it's so positive, isn't it? There's so much good that's gone on this season, irrelevant of the final and the PSG exit. I think the win last night, not just against Everton, but the position it now puts them in, it's more or less sealed it for me. I think I don't think any of us ever thought this was going to happen just after Jurgen left. It's been a brilliant season.
Yeah, on the game last night, Danny, what did you make of the performance?
It was quite controlled. I thought there was a bit of nerves in the first half. They had a couple of breakaway chances. Unusually for Konate and Virgil, they looked a bit rattled by Beto at times. But overall, dominant. I think they stayed patient. Great goal. I know there's some contention around it. I'm sure we'll get to that. But overall, I think the performance deserved the 3 points. And to be honest, who cares if it didn't? At this stage of the season, nobody really cares on the level of performance. The level of performance is something you look at in the first half of the season, because if you maintain a good level, you tend to win games. Near the business end, nobody cares. If you play badly and win, great. And that win last night was huge after the 2 defeats, because obviously that was the first time Liverpool had lost 2 games on the spin this season. And it just gives them a little bit. I mean, the breathing space now is so big. They can play with a bit more freedom. You can go on the pitch, not thinking too much. You can just relax and play.
Yeah, I mean, Peter, Danny mentioned there the level of performances. I mean, for, 2/3 of the season, it was a Liverpool team that were almost just, hammering any team that got in the way, whether it was, Madrid by Leverkusen in the Champions League, almost every team in the league. But certainly over the last 6 weeks, there was those 2 defeats. But even in some of the victories, I'm thinking, the Wolves game at home stands out. It hasn't been Liverpool at their absolute best. I mean, firstly, we don't care about that. But why do you maybe think there has been that little bit of drop-off, maybe in terms of the intensity and quality at times?
Yeah, I think it's inevitably down to fatigue, I think. I think you can see that in the midfield and that, But last night we were saying at half-time, 0-0, when we were in the bar, in the cops, just saying, everyone will take a 1-0. Everyone will take a 1-0 here. It's just getting her over the line. And the cop actually shook last night when that goal went in. It was reminiscent of the goal, the last minute goal against Everton. Came off the crossbar.
The Origi goal, yeah.
And it was reminiscent of that. The place just went wild. And that's all it meant. I mean, for me, there was only one team wanting to play football last night. And that was Liverpool. And you think Moyes, after 22 attempts of winning the game, he changed his tactics slightly. but he hasn't. He's done the same thing every time, and everyone's just going, he's doing it again. But obviously they'd look at it as if 0-0. Evertonians would have been there for half an hour celebrating. No doubt.
There we go. Like after the Tarkowski goal at Goodison.
Yeah. Well, I was at that, unfortunately, in the main stand with the Evertonians. Most of them had gone, by the way.
Had they?
When that goal went in. I'd say there's only a third left by me. And obviously, when that goal went in, there was uproar, and but I'd say a third of the crowd had gone.
Danny, at times this season, Diogo Jota's come in for a little bit of criticism. Perhaps his levels might have dropped, but I mean, goodness me, that goal last night was vintage Jota, wasn't it?
It was a great finish. Do you know what? I was texting my eldest lad, because he's a mad red, and we were both saying he's got to come off. He's been struggling the last few weeks, not been scoring. Darwin hasn't really had a chance. Even Diaz can play down the middle. We've done that before. Sometimes when there's a packed defence, he's not brilliant with his link-up, but that's why Arne Slot's a manager and I'm sat here talking to you, because he decided to leave him on, where I think a lot of Liverpool fans probably would have maybe fancied seeing a change, even Chiesa after he had that cameo in the final, but he stayed on, and those little finishes with his great little bit of footwork, irrelevant at the offside, but that was really him all over. That's what he does. He finds space in tight areas, and his goal scoring record's phenomenal, really, to give him credit. I do still think he's better off the wide. I think coming onto things rather than stuck up top. But, I mean, the manager left them on. He gave them time. And the finish really epitomised what he does. He's not one of those players that's always easy on the eye. He's not always involved, but he comes up with big, big moments. It was a terrific goal and a really important one.
Yeah, I mean, he took the goal well, Peter, didn't he? I also thought that the Diaz had a really good game last night as well. I think, again, he's someone that maybe is... I just thought it was almost like the Diaz of old. He was direct, he was quick, he was pacey, he was causing trouble. And I thought that was the Diaz of previous seasons, his absolute best.
Yeah, he was like a man possessed, wasn't he, Diaz? But I mean, certainly in the pub before, and everyone's going, what's he doing? Playing the same forward line? He hasn't scored in so many games, but that's why you've got to trust Arne Slot, haven't you? I mean...
He's doing all right, isn't he, Peter? He's doing all right.
He's not bad for his first season.
He's doing okay. Just the Premier League first season.
Yeah, but it was fantastic. I think I was at the last game where Jota scored was against Forest away, wasn't it? I think that was his last goal.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, and that was right at the beginning of the year, wasn't it?
He has really had a bad patch for him, but I think he's prone to injury, isn't he? That's the only problem, and I think it takes him a while to get back. To get that momentum back after injuries, So, yeah, hopefully this will put him on a goal scoring spree, and we can clinch it before the end of the season.
Yeah, and Danny, I also thought defensively, I mean, a new position last night, something different for Curtis Jones playing a right back, but I thought he did and filled in there so well. I'm not sure. I know obviously you were a central midfielder. I mean, did you ever have to play at fullback, and how hard can it be being a central midfielder? Making that switch, because it looked like he'd been playing there for a long time. I thought he looked really, really comfortable all game.
Well, I did it once in my younger days, actually, when we had a man sent off, and it was awful. But
never again.
I think because he's such a bright footballer, very intelligent footballer, and so good with his feet. With the ball's never going to be a problem for him to play anywhere, because he's so comfortable in possession. The problem would have been for him if he had a proper winger to be up against. But I think Arne Slot knew Everton were going to play that way, nice and narrow, lots of midfielders. He wasn't up against a Dwight McNeil, because obviously he's not available, or that. So it was clever, really, in some respects, because although I like Kwanzaa, potentially a very good player, he's not as comfortable as Curtis on the ball, and he was never really troubled defensively. In fact, I don't know if it was quite late in the game, quite really late. That volley he got away on the back post from the set play late on was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But he's had a great season, and I think Curtis Jones is going to be a big player for Liverpool, not as a fullback, by the way. And I did hear the commentator say, we could make Bill Trent's boots. Like, come on, behave yourself. The reality is, I think one of his best qualities is in higher up the pitch now, because Arnie's given him the license to play more forward than Jurgen did, and he's got such great feet, And I think his numbers will go up as his confidence and his games go up in terms of goals and assists. But yeah, he filled in really well. I mean, it was a surprise when I saw the team, but again, another little bit of magic from Arnie.
Yeah, again, but you're right, Danny. That Peter defending the far post. I was doing a watch along last night on TalkSport's YouTube channel, and me and all the guests, we were almost in shock. We thought that was Virgil because it was a dangerous ball, wasn't it, coming in with real pace, and he had to sort his feet out and then clear the ball. It was fantastic. It's irrelevant now because we ended up winning, and thankfully Alexis McAllister is okay. But I mean, goodness me, Danny, the James Tarkowski challenge on Alexis McAllister. I mean, one look at it, one replay, and I thought it's going to be the easiest thing in the world for the bloke at Stockley Park to have one look at a replay, send over the referee to have one look at it on his own screen, and then issue a red card. I mean, goodness me, it was a stinking challenge. And then the decision from both the referee and the VAR. I mean, you're sat there watching it thinking, what on earth? How can a bloke look at that at Stockley Park and say, no, that's fine, yellow card, get on with the game? It's crazy, isn't it?
It was a bizarre one because it was so blatant. I mean, we all know going back in time, tackles were pretty standard. Stevie G's favourite, that one. In fact, you used it myself a few times. It's a protective one and you just follow through. It's an old school tackle. I suppose the most, I mean, yeah. I don't know if Evertonians expected it. I don't know if you saw it after, Peter, when you got home, but when Duncan Ferguson turned round and said straight red, you know it's a red card because even though we're dinosaurs and we played years before, that now it's right to be cancelled, that tackle, because it's a naughty one. And he's very, very lucky he hasn't broke his leg. I mean, even Tarkowski's interview after, you could see he was disappointed in himself because he could have really messed McAllister.
And straight after the game, Danny, he went over to McAllister, didn't he, and apologised?
Yeah, but that's...
Yeah, I mean, one of my mates behind me said last night, he said, that's a perfectly good tackle in the 1980s, but not now. And it's, it's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It, because of social media, we were in the ground and within a few minutes we could see it. And everyone was passing the phones out like that. It was unbelievable. And, Paul Tierney, I think he's got a history, hasn't he? So, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone's going, Tierney's in VAR. That's why he's not.
You got no chance, yeah.
It might have spoiled the, it wasn't a great game anyway. It wasn't a vintage derby, was it? But it would have maybe changed the game. But, I never like to see players sent off, but no. I think that one. I think the referee, PGMOL, have come out with a statement, haven't they, saying he should have been red,
You're absolutely spot on. They have around about half an hour before we started recording, they have come out and acknowledged that the Everton captain, James Tarkowski, should have been recorded for that challenge. I mean, they've almost just confirmed what we've all pretty much said and what everybody knows. But like, Danny, when you're a player, you said you've, like, those sort of challenges, when you come through and connect with the ball, and there's obviously such an aggressive follow through. Do you think Tarkowski is, I'm not saying obviously he's ever trying to break another player's leg, but do you think he knows what he's like? Do you think he's trying to leave something on McAllister to almost let him know that he's there? Would that be normal for a player perhaps to do that in a derby game?
Well, he explained it pretty well, Tarkowski, because what he said was, which is always in your head, is that they're going to come in the same way. And Tarkowski's been around a long time, and he would have started out when he started playing with that type of scenario where if two players go in the same way, you both protect yourself and you straight leg it. You call it a straight legger. The difference is you can go through and leave your leg straight, but if you go through and then raise your leg as well, you are really looking at problems. But I can't say I don't understand his mentality because I've been in that position where I've done exactly the same. But ultimately, you are now playing in a time where the rules are much more favourable to attackers. And I'm in agreement with it. Those bad tackles should be out of the game. But he's done all he can now, I suppose. The best thing about it is that Liverpool won the game because if they hadn't, that is an injustice. I know the Evertonians will say about the offside, which we'll deal with, but that was a really bad mistake from VAR. And Tierney, he's made a lot of mistakes this season, the lad. So, he needs to reassess using him in the bar because he's probably more suited to reffing.
On the offside, then, I mean, before the ball falls to Diogo Jota, there's a pass to Luis Diaz, isn't there? Which James Tarkowski, Luis Diaz is in offside position. James Tarkowski goes and makes a challenge. I mean, looking back at the replay, Danny, did you think it should have been given as offside? Did you think that the Luis Diaz was impacting the play? He obviously makes no attempt, does he, to try and get the ball as it gets played forward? But I guess Everton fans would argue that he is offside. Tarkowski might not know that and is therefore got to make the challenge?
Well, there's a couple of different aspects to it, isn't there? There's one in terms of your opinion, and then there's the rules. And then there's how you interpret the rules. And when you look at the breakdown of the rules, it's understandable why the goal is given. And more often than not, the goal will be given when a player doesn't try and move towards the ball. The argument for the Evertonians, which is you could interpret the rule where he's affected Tarkowski's decision-making because he's lunged to clear it rather than if he wasn't there, he'd have been more composed and maybe cleared it further away or, I don't know, whatever. So I do see both sides to it. I personally would like to see the rules change to a point where any player, even if he doesn't go towards the ball or is in the vicinity of it, and if he's in an offside or coming out of an offside position, that it's offside, because it would just erase all of that. So, but I do completely understand why they've given it, because if you apply the rules, you can give the goal. And more often than not this season, those examples have been given because I've done loads of them. So the officials using the rules and how they've interpreted it this season have got it right. But I think the rules need adapting to make things like that offside.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. You're right. I think with the letter of the law, it's obviously a goal, so that's the referees have come to the right call there. Peter, you were inside the ground last night.
Yeah.
Just out of interest, what was the atmosphere like, kind of going into the ground last night on the back of those couple of defeats? I mean, obviously, I'm guessing the atmosphere was pretty electric, and everybody's looking forward to kind of a title celebration over the next few weeks.
But a typical derby apprehension, it was like, oh no, because coming off 2 defeats, that's what affects it, and you just think Everton, Moyes, what's going to happen. It's a carbon copy of us over the 22 attempts winning at Anfield, so what's coming, and you think, anything but a defeat, anything but a defeat. But it kept on airing on TalkSport all day yesterday. He hasn't won in 21 visits. Shut up.
Yeah.
Don't jinx it.
Put the curse on it. Yeah, put the curse on it.
Yeah, so there was, apprehension because of what had happened at Goodison. I think that mentally scarred Liverpool. Liverpool fans were singing the last few minutes we won the league at Goodison Park, and then the killer blow and the last minute goal, So, yeah, we were mentally scarred by that, I think. So everyone's a bit like, just get it over with. 1-0 will do, a penalty, anything,
But, I mean, the kind of like outside noise, Peter, I mean, from obviously non-Liverpool fans trying to spin the narrative that this season isn't going to be a good season for Liverpool because, the quad was on a couple of weeks ago and out of the Champions League, out of the Cup. And I think Virgil van Dijk said that to Michael Owen after the game. I think he made it. I think Michael sort of led with, disappointment. Virgil was like, hey, hang on a minute. Are you really trying to say this is now not a good season? But it's I mean, to win the Premier League in the first season, Peter, you literally can't ask for much more than that, can you?
You can't. Liverpool fans weren't talking about the quadruple. That wasn't the talk. It was all about the Premier League. It was all about the Premier League. And like when we went out the FA Cup, it was like, the Premier League, so obviously a big disappointment against PSG and Newcastle, but the Premier League was the one, and like everyone, those results will be forgotten if we win the Premier League or when we win the Premier League. Because I think last night was that was where everyone was thinking, we can't be caught now, surely,
You can't argue that, can you, Danny? Can't be caught now, can we?
No, it would be probably the biggest catastrophe the Premier League's ever seen if we weren't to win it now. We can lose 4 games with the goal difference as well.
Yeah,
more or less. And we haven't, we've lost 1 all season, haven't we? So I think it's done. I think Arsenal will probably try and focus on their Madrid games, I would imagine, which means, they've got to go. I think they're at Goodison, aren't they, the weekend? So,
on Saturday in the early game, yeah.
Yeah, so that's no easy place to go. It's going to get done. It's just a case of when it gets done. And although nobody really cares, I think most Liverpool fans, after winning it in lockdown, it'd be nice to win it at Anfield. I think it could be the Tottenham game, I think, Peter, if that's right, isn't it? Late 8. I think it could be the Tottenham game. So that would be really special for the fans, so many younger ones who haven't seen them in person win a title. And that's why what Peter said, right, I've said all along this season, from Liverpool fans' perspective, because I know so many, of course, it's the title. If you'd have said at the beginning of the season, even if they'd not won many games in the Champions League and beaten Madrid and Levy, even if they'd not got to the League Cup final, it wouldn't really be a big deal because, we're spoilt really, aren't we? The League Cup, we've won God knows how many times, and European Cup, we've won more than any other English team. So the league was always the priority. And I think the other big thing for me as well is it's not just winning the league. I know we've got the contractual situations, which is a separate side issue, but I think so many of the players have kicked on this season. I think Konaté's had his best season in a Liverpool shirt. Yeah, I think Curtis Jones has been terrific. Szoboszlai in the second half of after his start of the season, probably the second and third, she's shown his true colours and what a wonderful player he's going to be, and he's becoming. And even McAllister seems to be like so comfortable in his. He's becoming one of the leaders now. I don't mean in terms of tackles and barking. I mean in terms of getting on the ball, getting us playing and all that. So many players seem to have kicked on. So if we can get the contractual stuff sorted, then everything's positive for another great season next season.
Yeah. And also, just throw one more name in, Danny, there, of all the players that have kind of pushed on. The one that maybe has impressed me the most is Gravenberch, in terms of, obviously, we know he's playing a little bit deeper this season, but how impressed have you been with him in this kind of new number 6 role this season?
Well, do you know what? I don't even know why he didn't come into my brain, because I've been banging the drum for him for ages. He's been absolutely, he's been sensational. I know the difference between changing. I spent most of my career as a more attacking midfielder and spent my last 5 years playing in a deeper role. It's a different mindset. You have to really change the way you think and become a bit more selfless. And I think he's done it really, really well. We know he's good on the ball and he can glide past people. I think he's had a little dip in the last month, to be honest. I think he's dropped his levels a tiny bit, but I think that was inevitable because he was playing so well. And the one thing I like about him as well, which we hadn't seen to this point, is his durability. I mean, he's barely missed a minute, and he never looks tired. Even at the end of the games, he gets about the pitch still. He's a super athlete, and that could save Liverpool. I don't see anyone, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who I'd go, if we can get him, he'll come in and take his place. Why would we go and spend 70, 80 million of the budget on a holding midfielder when you've now got him and you've got Endo as backup, who's a terrific player as well? We're going to need that money for other positions, I think.
Yeah.
And you mentioned there his durability. He's 22. He's the youngest player to start each of Liverpool's first 30 matches of a league season since Robbie Fowler back in 94, 95. So you're absolutely bang on. Not just his quality, Peter. He's available every single week.
He's an absolute machine. He's unbelievable. And how other players haven't sussed that one where he lets the ball glide across him and takes it on. He does it every time, and he's going to do it. And no one can stop him. He must be so good at that, movement. According to a lot of people, when we didn't get Zubimendi, it was the end of the world.
Yeah. Season's over, Peter. Cancel the season.
What are we doing? It's the end. And it's genius. It's similar to the way Ray Kennedy, Paisley turned him from an attacker into a midfielder. Slot must have seen something in Gravenberch, or that's his position. Because every time he played for Klopp, and he didn't play that often, he always tended to be on the left of the midfield, didn't he? When he did, Slot seen something in training and thought, I'm going to try him as the number 6, and it's been a revelation.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, it's saved a couple of quid, hasn't it? Danny, or Peter, just one more question on the game last night. I mean, leaving Anfield, obviously the vibe would have been absolutely incredible. But you mentioned there the word fatigue, didn't you? I think that was your first question. Players are looking a little bit tired. When you think back to the PSG and Newcastle game and maybe the fatigue in that, if there was maybe one criticism potentially of Slot this season, do you maybe think at times he maybe could have rotated better perhaps to maybe ensure that maybe going into the PSG games, the Newcastle games, maybe more players would maybe look a little bit fresh? Because the PSG game in particular, the players did look knackered, didn't they?
Yeah, but Liverpool did play well in that game. We only got, we got beat on pens. So Liverpool, but PSG are a quality team, aren't they? So it was the Newcastle performance that disappointed me. But it was disappointing all around. Liverpool fans went down. We all went down. Shrug of the shoulders. It's the League Cup. Newcastle treated it like the World Cup final, and that's the difference, I think. And it's probably in the mentality of the players as well. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, Danny, it was fatigue something that's has been worrying you over the past couple of weeks with this team?
Well, not worrying, because the way he's done it has put them in such a wonderful position in the Premier League. He's definitely he's gone. I think there's been times, in answer to your question, I think there's been times where I think he could have maybe used subs earlier, or even started one. Endo could have played a bit more. I'm surprised Chiesa hasn't been used a bit more, because when I've seen him, he always looks fit and sharp and going past people. Even Darwin, I know he changes people's opinion from week to week, but I still think he can give you.
Why didn't he go, Danny? Why didn't Darwin go into the corner last night instead of trying that top corner shot?
That's right.
Because he's Darwin Núñez, Peter. He doesn't do the simple things, does he?
My God, get into the corner.
I know. I think his football IQ isn't the best, but his raw ability. No, it is. It's not. Some people have different qualities. His physicality is his quality.
Yeah.
But I back to the point. I think that the manager has decided from an early point in the season that if his best players are fit and he can play his best team, he's going to do it. And he's going to see where that takes him. And it's taken him to a league title. So we could be nitpicking now and saying, well, could have rested him and used the subs a bit more differently and blah, blah, blah. But if you think back, I mean, nobody was saying that when Klopp had Mane, Firmino and Salah playing nearly every game for about 3 years. And we were going true. City and getting to 2 Champions League finals. It's always easy after the event. The fact is that PSG game was on a knife edge. The second half, Liverpool actually had loads of energy and overran them in the second. First half, they weren't great, but second half, they overran them. Now, extra time, they were a bit fatigued, which is normal. But you've got to understand as well, in that particular game, Liverpool are playing Premier League football every week against really high-quality opposition. PSG are playing half their games at teams that they can beat in second gear. So you would expect PSG to have a bit more energy. The reality is there's very few things he's got wrong. And, losing a penalty shootout to PSG and losing a cup final to an energetic, powerful Newcastle side, who, as Peter said, it was their World Cup final. They're little moments, they're small things. Overall, Liverpool's fitness, physicality and quality has been much higher than any of us thought it would be.
Yeah. I mean, how good was it last night when Endo came on? And the whole ground singing his name, and it's just absolutely brilliant. I love him when he comes on. He just closes the game up, doesn't he? And fantastic. But when we went to the pub afterwards, it was like euphoria. That was the game. If we got the result in that game, everyone thinks that's it now. So it was absolutely bedlam in the pub last night.
So Liverpool beating Everton last night. Now, I think almost every single human being in the world has had their say on the Trent Alexander-Arnold contract situation. But because this is the first Inside Liverpool show that we have done since the international break, where obviously the news kind of came out that, the worst kept secret in football was nearly confirmed, or pretty much confirmed, that he's going to be going to Real Madrid. I've just got to get your thoughts on this, guys. Peter, you obviously live in the area. You go to the games. You're in the COP last night. So interested for your thoughts on a local lad who's been at the club since he was a kid, played hundreds of times for the football club, won every single trophy available to him, not signing a new deal and moving away. Do you understand this decision, or is it something you just can't get your head around?
Of course, you got to understand his decision if that's his decision. But I think people genuinely feel a bit let down that he's let the contract run and we're not getting any fee for him. I think that's the real issue. I think it happened. I think Steve McManaman did it as well. And that tarnished his reputation with Liverpool fans. But when Real Madrid come, it's very hard, isn't it? I mean, you talk to people at the game, and you go, if you get if you go to what you think is the biggest club in the world, I don't think they are. I think Liverpool are, but other people do, and I think it was significant that Trent said about winning things. It was the Ballon d'Or he was after. Remember that interview?
Yeah, he gave an interview. For those who haven't seen it, he gave an
it.
interview with Sky Sports, and I think it was something like he was to pick the thing that he'd want the most, and I think it was Champions League, Premier League, World Cup, and Ballon d'Or, and he picked the Ballon d'Or.
The online abuse is absolutely ridiculous because we've had the pleasure of watching Trent. He's a top player, and I think you miss him. We missed him in the Carabao Cup final. We missed him. We missed those passes. Certainly, I think Salah misses those defence splitting passes behind the defender. And Trent supplies that. So I don't want him to go. But, I'm not going to start going on social media, calling him all the things under the sun, because that's his decision, And Liverpool will move on. I was there when Keegan left, we were all devastated. And then, when Rush left, we were all devastated. But people move. Remember Torres going, I think. Yeah. Then we got Suarez, so,
And Andy Carroll in the same window. Don't forget Andy Carroll.
It's a bigger picture to see. And I think, it's one of those. I just think maybe the club could handle it better, but maybe they have. We don't know the ins and outs. Maybe they have offered him deals, in the last couple of years, extensions, and he just hasn't wanted to sign them. But Trent hasn't said a word.
Yeah,
great. He hasn't said a word. He hasn't.
But Peter,
speculation comes from elsewhere, hasn't it?
Just to pick up on something you said disappointment at him running his contract down. I know we're all guessing here, aren't we, of what's happening behind the scenes. But do you think that this has almost been a conscious effort in his mind that he's always had Madrid in his mind and that he's run it down? Or do you put more of the blame of the football club in terms of them perhaps?
It's probably 50-50.
Sure.
It's probably 50-50. I think if they'd have offered him an extension, he got an extension a couple of years ago, didn't he?
Yeah.
If they'd offered another year or two on his current contract, with more, he might have signed it. He might not. We just don't know. And I think Danny knows all about, transfers and what happens. And, I think it was Rafa Benitez says football is a lie, didn't he? When it comes to what's going on in contracts,
sure.
There's nobody, unless you're in the room, you just don't know, do you?
I think it's easy to understand the draw of Madrid in some respects, especially for most football people. It's a bit more insular when you grow up as a Liverpool fan and you play for the club you love. It's not as easy a thing for some people to accept, which I also understand. There's a footballing aspect to it, a lifestyle, a culture, things he wants to achieve. I get it. You can't begrudge him. I don't anyway. He's been tremendous for Liverpool. I think the difficulty around him going for nothing is an issue for a lot of people. I know Peter mentioned that. It's a really difficult one to have a really solid opinion on without knowing all the facts. Who's offered him what, when? How adamant has he been not to sign it? How much money have they offered? All those things. Has there been a clause offered in there that means he could still get the move? All those things we know. So I think it would be foolish to put all the blame on him or all the blame on the club. I mean, the reality is it could be one or the other who's completely to blame. And he might have dug his heels in and said, look, doesn't matter what you're offering me, I don't want to go. I don't want to stay, sorry. That might come out in the wash. But while we don't know, I think it's ridiculous, really, to be too opinionated on the subject. Purely from a footballing perspective, I do understand it. And I only understand it mainly because he's won everything at Liverpool already. I think if you're a local lad or a Liverpool fan and you play and you haven't won it all, I'd find it difficult for the mindset to say you want to go somewhere else and try and win the trophies you're trying to achieve at the club you love. So that would be one thing I'd say. But overall, it's a disappointing situation the club's in because it's not just Trent, it's Virgil and Mo as well. And it's very, very unusual to the Liverpool I knew. So when I first went to Liverpool, Peter Robinson was the CEO. And generally, the rule was always the same, that if you're appreciated or wanted by the club, if you're getting to 2 years left on your contract, you'll either get rewarded or you'll get gone. And very few players were too big. Few players were too big and too special to change that rule. Stevie Mack was the first one because obviously that was all new then when the Bosman rule, that ruling came in. That all changed the dynamic.
Yeah.
But that was probably the first one I remember. But generally, even after that, Liverpool used to work in a way that if you're not signing and you don't want to be here and you're not going to come on board with what we're doing, then we'll look for an exit plan. And the fact they haven't done that with these three, I find quite bizarre, especially the quality of the players we're talking about. So my gut feeling is that maybe the players have had more to do with that than the club offering them stuff. But maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to wait and see. The biggest problem is with all of this.
But also there's...
Go on, Peter.
Yeah, also there's the fact that Klopp announced that he was leaving before he probably wanted to, So mid-season, obviously, the news comes that Klopp's going. And maybe the players are thinking, well, wait there, see what the next man's like. It could be an element
of that,
couldn't it? And that's why the club haven't been able to get...
Before their contracts run out, wasn't it? That should have been dealt with 2 summers ago, not mid-season. I think that should have normally been summer before. I do take your point, because... If Virgil, especially with Virgil and Mo, because they're a bit older, maybe you're all right getting to the last year, but they might be thinking, well, hold on, I don't even know how this manager's going to be. I don't know how it's going to go. But the big problem is with all of this is that when you start a new season, like next season, you're normally already planning now. What do we need to make the jigsaw complete? At the moment, Liverpool don't even know what pieces are going to be missing to fill. It's a bizarre scenario where they're going, well, if Virgil and Mo sign, all of a sudden, that's that area of the pitch, fine for another year or 18 months or 2 seasons or whatever. So then they can prioritise elsewhere. If Virgil and Mo go, God forbid, then all of a sudden, you've got to fill those spaces. So maybe the fullback areas become redundant, maybe the mid, all these things. This is the little... I'm amazed now still that we haven't got a resolution on any of them.
I mean, there's rumours going, round that Virgil and Mo are going to sign, but they can't announce it because of the Trent situation. But it's all, what Liverpool's like for rumour mill, on transfers, and we don't know what the reality is, So everything's speculation. But obviously, the ideal scenario is that Mo and Virgil do stay. Otherwise, I mean, Virgil, the whole team's built round his, the fact that him and Kanate work together and the solidity at the back, and it's essential, isn't it?
I've got a good feeling, Virgil.
Final question on.
Let's
I think Virgil most. I think
say, Sam,
for sure.
I've got a good feeling.
Oh, hang on a minute, Peter.
Oh my
hang
God.
on. Is this our first Inside Liverpool worldwide exclusive, Danny? This is our second ever show. Would you like to drop an exclusive?
No, I don't know.
It's the Robbie Fowler on the golf course.
I don't know anything for sure. But what I'm saying is I've heard enough good positive things from the people I do know.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying you're confident Virgil and Mo are signing new deals at Liverpool?
I don't know about Mo. I'd be less confident on that.
So am I.
But Virgil?
Yeah,
I mean, James Pearce had to put something out, didn't he? Because Mo was seen on the Albert Dock on a yacht. And he was a commercial partner. But everyone's going, he's meeting the Saudis.
Yeah. Oh, there was one with Trent a few months ago where he was at his local park where he grew up and his Liverpool tracking. Everyone thought that was the contract announcement. It wasn't. It was some commercial deal.
I mean, I put something on Twitter a while back, said someone needs to tell Trent that there's a local saying in Madrid, 9 months winter, 3 months hell. And that's the local saying. Because, it's not Malaga, it's not the Costa del Sol.
You need to get that song on the cot, Peter, in the next couple of weeks,
Yeah.
Final question on Trent. Then we'll look ahead to the Fulham game this weekend. In terms of Peter legacy, my 2 questions are: how will he be viewed among Liverpool fans when he does leave? And the second bit is, I mean, I'm seeing some stuff on social media that he's going to get booed when he comes back. I mean, that's a load of absolute nonsense, isn't it? The match-going Liverpool fans aren't going to boo one of their own players, are they?
They're not going to boo him, no. I mean, you might have individuals who aren't happy in the crowd, but he's not going to get booed. But I think, as his legacy, a great player for Liverpool in the modern era, but he won't be regarded as a legend, because of his move, and that's the reality. That's human nature. That's what people are like, And I think, for us, he was a potential captain of the club. That's why people hard to understand why, if he is a potential captain, why he wouldn't say, okay, I'll stay and I will eventually take over the captaincy. I don't know.
And Danny, same question.
Yeah, I think if you talk about Liverpool's greatest ever 11, he'd be in the conversation, and that itself is an amazing thing for any player to have.
Let's now look ahead to the game this weekend. We're calling it the Danny Murphy Derby because Liverpool go to Fulham this weekend in the Premier League, potentially with the opportunity to go further clear of Arsenal. Danny, you obviously play for Fulham as well as Liverpool. What sort of challenge do you think Fulham are gonna pose Liverpool this weekend?
Well, they're very athletic, very dynamic, competitive. They try and play the right way. There's lots to be positive about for Fulham fans. They've had a bad week, couple of weeks actually, going out the cup and stuff. But they'll give Liverpool problems. The great thing is about the way Fulham play is they'll leave spaces for Liverpool to attack and to score goals. That's for sure. I think it'll be a really good game. It won't be whatever they won't do what Everton did, for example, and sit behind the ball. They'll come after Liverpool, and that'll suit Liverpool. So I think Liverpool will go there and win. I think Fulham have just come off their run, like they've just come off the rails a little tiny bit. Still be tough and competitive, but as I say, the wide open spaces they'll leave by throwing their fullbacks forward, I think will be so accommodating for Liverpool's attacking players. I fancy Liverpool to win.
They gave us serious problems, didn't they, at Anfield?
Played really.
We went down to 10 men, didn't we? And went 1-0 down, didn't we?
Yeah. I think Jota.
Robertson got sent off, wasn't it?
I think Jota got the equaliser, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So if Jota's obviously scoring against Everton, be full of confidence, I can see Liverpool going there and getting a result, getting a win, and nearer to the finishing line. But
Danny,
Fulham against Palace. Fulham outplayed Palace for most of the first half and ended up going in 2-0 down, didn't he?
I've watched certainly the first half of the season. I covered a lot of Fulham games and watched a lot of Fulham games, and I watched them play some really, really good football, batter teams and not win games. It felt like it's been a real theme of their season, dominate possession and not be able to pick up the 3 points. Danny, this is a Liverpool show, but you obviously had a great time at Fulham. You had a great couple of years there. You must have fond memories of your time at Fulham.
I had 5 great years there. It became like Liverpool had been the only club it felt like home, if you like, from like a family point of view and being connected to so many people there. And then Fulham kind of gave me that again. I did 5 years there. We had an amazing time. We had a great group of lads, senior squad, experienced players. We obviously missed out in the last minute of extra time in the final of the Europa League, which is still haunting me to this day.
Yeah, of course.
But overall, great times, good memories, and a really nice place to play. It's not the same intensity or pressure as playing Liverpool. You have to win every game. You have to win trophies. You have to be successful. It's a different mentality. Fulham's a bit more relaxed in that, so you can really enjoy your football and really kind of express yourself without fear of too much analysis or criticism. But yeah, wonderful club. So I'm really pleased that Silver's got them to the level he has.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job there. And again, it's so tight, isn't it, in those sort of places to try and finish in Europe. About 7-8 teams have got a chance of finishing top 4, even top 5 this season, which could be a Champions League place. But Peter, we know that Arne Slot doesn't like to rotate too much. But I don't know about you guys. I want to see Chiesa get some minutes this season. I mean, he's come in. He's barely kicked the ball. In the Carabao Cup final game off the bench, he was really dangerous. I'd love for him to get a little run in the team because he looks enthusiastic. He looks like he's a good character around the team, and I want to see him have some minutes.
Yeah, I think everyone was saying the same even last night. That we thought we might have seen him against Everton. But when he came on against Newcastle, he was electric, wasn't he? And he scored but I don't know. Obviously, that's what the manager's paid for. They need to make these decisions. And it must be a difficult one.
And I know we said it's hard to sort of almost guess at what Liverpool are going to do in the summer because we're not sure who's staying, who's going. If we were to be glass half full and say that Salah does sign a new deal, so Salah's staying, of the other attacking options, Jota and Diaz have been inconsistent this season. Chiesa's not playing much football. Feels like Nunez, maybe fans have given up on him. And then you got Gakpo, who's been electric this season. Yeah. Of those other options, Danny, of Jota, Diaz, Chiesa, Nunez, Gakpo, how do you think, assuming Salah's staying how do you think Arne Slot is going to want to juggle his attack going into next season in terms of moving who on, do you think, perhaps?
Well, I'd be desperate to keep Diaz and Gakpo, that's for sure. I really like the dynamism of both of them. They can play all across the front line. Jota, we know his quality, but he's very rarely fit for a full season. And I think, obviously, the patience has kind of run out with Darwin. So I would think that maybe those two would be the most vulnerable. Obviously, Darwin more than Jota to a degree. And then we'll see what happens with Chiesa. But I think in some ways, a lot of Liverpool fans would be quite excited to see a refresh up top. We've got to keep that dynamism, which you would have if Diaz and Gakpo and Salah are still there. But it wouldn't be, although I'm a fan of Jota, I do think, depends obviously what you get for these players, same with Darwin, but a couple of new faces up top would freshen things up and improve it a little bit. But I also wouldn't be despondent if Jota stays because he's a regular goal contributor. But I think Darwin's days are done, unfortunately, for him.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, Peter? Because he's one of those where, the fans have stuck with him, the fans have backed him, and there are moments, right, where he scores a great goal and you think there's a good player in there, but my goodness, he's just, the lack of consistency is frightening, isn't it?
I just think also Arne Slot's style of football doesn't suit him, does it?
Yeah, that's right.
I think, it probably more suited to the way Klopp played, But, I think he's had fantastic backing from the crowd. But I think even his most stalwart supporters are shrugging their shoulders now. And they've half give up on him, But you never know.
Peter, thank you so much for your time. Danny, Thank you so much for your time. This has been episode 2 of Inside Liverpool. We'll be back next week on TalkSport's YouTube channel. Also, of course, on your smart TVs as well. Thank you so much for watching. Nice to record the morning after a Merseyside derby victory. Liverpool, once again, 12 clear at the top of the table.
We're going to win the league.
Thanks, Peter.
And now you're going to believe us.